this? Cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Chase Gladden. I am the dramaturg for Reconnect. This is the talkback. This is basically a period of time where you get to contact directly to the performers, the musicians, the production team, and ask any questions you want about anything, really. It can be about the wearable technology, the projections, anything about the rehearsal process. The floor is completely open. So you guys are welcome to just ask the group a general question, ask specific questions to particular people, anything you want.
Shall we identify ourselves?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I'm Jenna. I'm one of the composers and also the percussionist.
I'm Aaron Taylor. I was another composer and a pianist.
I'm Ryan, one of the co-producers and projection designer.
I'm Kristen. I am also a co-producer and I was the costume designer.
I'm Amber. I'm Hallie. I was former and forever.
I'm Delonte.
So, fire away. This is a devised piece, which means everybody sitting here helped create it, helped create content for it, helped build the whole piece, had opinions on each other's work, and it was very much so a cohesive, collaborative process. Nothing is anyone's own specific thing, it's shared. If you have any questions about devised theater, or like Chase said, anything else? Fire away.
What went into the dramaturgy of the play?
Yeah, every time the word dramaturg comes up, that's a question. What is that? The dramaturg, to steal the explanation from a famous dramaturg, I question. The dramaturg is just they're at a perfect balance of aesthetic distance and aesthetic closeness. They work most closely with the production team, the directors, playwrights, etc. What they do is they maintain that distance to where they are, how's the best way to word it? They are emotionally detached enough from the production to keep the needs of the production first and foremost, versus actor needs, director needs, the play's needs come first. And that can be hard to do sometimes for directors and actors and performers because they're in it. It becomes their baby, it becomes their kid, they don't want to part with it, so changing it sometimes for the better of the play can sometimes go against their own convictions. So it's just maintaining that perfect balance, but a lot of it goes into it.
Did that change, I guess, for this piece as compared to previous pieces you've worked on?
Yes, because as Kristen, sorry, as as she said, this was a devised piece, so everyone had a big hand in creating it, where in a traditional production, the dramaturg, the directors, and the playwright would be the ones who are primarily the ones creating the story and actually, but in this case, since it was devised, everyone's hand was in the pot.
There are some definite things that Chris and I came into thinking, we see some certain things, how can we make that work? And so that's where, some ideas were, preconceived or sketched out and thinking, how we want to do something with seeing cell phones and then people typing them, how would that look? How would that sound? How would that move? So that's where it was really a matter of saying, here's some questions, can we solve them? And so we answer that on several levels with music and movement and media.
For Ryan and I, this was our joint thesis production. We both did a thesis about our parts of the project, but the production was our vehicle, and we always had people join us to help us make it the show that it is now. And yeah, with the process, it just became this huge shared creation.
I had questions just about the dance with you and Hallie where y'all had those light shirts on. I just want to know,
technology behind that made them, line up?
I'm a costume technology MFA candidate, hopefully I graduate this year. And my thesis was on wearable technology as a costume piece. And wearable technology is anything with flash memory, like your iPhone has flash memory, or like a jump drive has flash memory. Anything with flash memory that you wear on your physical person. Just like in the theater we say, anything that you wear is a costume, anything that you touch is a prop. So for me, these are wearable costumes. And flash memory, in this case, was put onto what's called a microcontroller, which is a small computer that controls anything. There's microcontrollers in your remote control, there's a microcontroller in your car, there's microcontrollers in those little big mouth Billy the Bat things. It's a computer that you can say, do this task, and it does it, and ad infinitum. And in this case, with my costumes, microcontrollers are free and open source. Anyone can get them. Now Radio Shack is defunct, but at any kind of electronics store you can buy one, and it's a creation for interdisciplinary work, which is, it's for people like you, me, anyone to get into electronics. Which I think is really great as somebody who's always trying to be like, no, I'm a costume technician, not a costume designer. People are like, wait, you design the costumes, right? And I'm like, no, I make them. And let me show you what that means. I sew, let me show you how to sew, and this is what you do. Because a lot of people approach costuming or sewing like, oh, my grandma does it, it's easy. And then they look at electrical engineering, and they're like, that's clearly what a wizard does. Like, I could never do that. And for both of them, they're both difficult and they're both really easy. And I tried to sort of combine them for the stage. And in the process, I fell in love with microcontrollers, and there's a wearable version of them, which means you can stitch it onto clothes. There's an exhibit before each show if you guys want to come next time and see it and play with the stuff that went into them. And I wanted to play with intimacy and proximity and technology, which both Ryan and I obviously loved this idea because we made a show. And his costume was reactive to proximity, so you don't have to touch his costume, you just have to wave it. And Hallie's costume is reactive to touch, so when you touch the conductive fabric patches on her body, which were hidden by that sweater, your body, his body, anyone's body completes the circuit that tells the microcontroller on her costume to light. And same thing with his, if you put your hand in front of one of those sensors, it says, microcontroller, there's something blocking me, cause all the LEDs to light. And we program them to do different patterns. So that was a very well-written description. Thank you for staying with me.
I mean, that's what it was, and the why I think was one of the challenges to solve, because this is really cool stuff. How can we throw in all of these different elements? So I think we were really deliberate in layering several things that went into that specific scene, which was having some sort of a romantic theme, having some sort of desire to be back together, emphasizing the touch, which was so crucial to make those work.
Although you're not falling over each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So part of the fun was figuring out how to tell a story through those sort of hard physical elements.
Yeah, as Ryan's a designer by trade and many other things, obviously, as he did everything in the show, but a designer and a technician with integrated media, and I'm a technician, and we both knew as our thesis proper what we wanted to incorporate into a show. And so coming at it from that angle is also unusual in theater, to say like, I need to make these costumes. They need to find a way into this piece. And he needed to have projected media into this piece, and and just be crazy. Like,
Yeah,
ridiculous.
no, and we knew that those weren't in and of themselves going to be the only elements that make a show, so that's why it was, hey, Ammon, what, what brilliant themes come to mind, and how can we paint the flavor, the mood of this kind of a story? Does it interest you? And he's like, yeah. And then it was meeting Jenna and saying, you know, we're thinking of figuring out how to like make cell phones actually kind of annoying, but at the same time really beautiful. And then you had Cell Phone Symphony, and it was just a really cool marriage of all of these different sort of, can we do this? Yes, I think so. Let's try it. And so it was just a lot of people that were open and willing to just try something, I think, outside of what we normally would do in our, you know, traditional, you know, faculty profession. Yeah.
It was interdisciplinary in a way that seemed organic. Like all of the parts seemed, oh, well, naturally there's a dance section here. You know, a lot of times it's just from being a dancer, I'll go into a piece and I'm like, oh, did you really want to add dance there? Seems out of the box right there, but it was very organic and nice to see them come together.
It'd be nice to hear from performers. A lot of people like, well, tell us about your experience within the whole of this piece. Why that interested you, and sort of what, if everybody had something to bring to the table, how was that experience for you?
Well, I first got introduced to this piece through Andrea. She was trying to find different dancers, actors, anyone that would like to move the way they think cell phones would be, or to move the way they think laptops would be, and to really play with the gap of intimacy 1 through 10. And if we can find an 11, which could be the closest, or 0, which could be the furthest. And throughout the process, it was, at first I thought it was like, oh my God, this is amazing, this is intense. But then as I went through the process, I was like, and throughout everything, especially putting the different pieces together, plays specifically, they would ask, so how does this sound? Does this flow right to you? And we all were able to say, well, do you think we could switch this around? Do you think we can add this in it? And at some point now, we could even change the scripts to what we think the audience will best be able to relate to. And I've had a great time. Each rehearsal was like a little thing. So I really enjoyed it.
To comment a little bit on what Monica was saying, I enjoyed getting a room full of 20-somethings to talk about social media. And go on forever. And that was what was really great about devising all of this. Everyone had a lot of unique ideas and ways to approach these just little funny habits we had, and ways to talk about it, show it, and move with it. So it was really cool.
And Hallie, you and Andrea were really instrumental in organizing these movement workshops that we called to figure out what all of that language would be. And I remember specifically asking everyone to, no, please stay on your phones. We're going to keep doing this. But like, you can actually make a phone call now, and you can actually, you know, text that person that you're trying to get a hold of. So we permitted a lot of these sort of, you know, what would be considered taboo situations in a rehearsal environment, and getting people to actually just try and bring that piece of equipment with them in the process was really fun.
And I kept asking the question in the movement workshops, like, what can't you do on your phone? Like, what can't you get via the internet? Like, can you choreograph a dance on the internet? And people were doing it in the workshop, or like and it was amazing to see how well it worked and how poorly it worked at the same time, and just everyone exploring these kinds of questions of like, what can't you get through this medium that is ubiquitous, it's everywhere. It's going to be in our brain.
Did it change your connection with it throughout the process?
I'm incredibly aware of when I'm using my devices now, but at the same exact time, this show would not have happened without the internet. I mean, and with these devices and things like.
Well, and you asked about dramaturgy, and sort of the shape of the show came from sort of the click-hole model, where you're just surfing the internet, or you're on a website, maybe reading a news article, and then there's all these related articles underneath, and then you're like, well, what's the weather going to be? Oh, here's how to style my hair today. And you're just constantly saturated with multiple layers of information, and we're always multitasking, I think, more and more. And so we were trying to reflect that a little bit with this, and a lot of research was just finding the latest article about, hey, we're doing a lot of things at the same time. What are we doing? So not necessarily saying it's good or bad, it's just kind of saying this is the way we function these days.
So I just wanted to add like something that I was surprised by. Initially, when you were looking at this, like your source materials were like, Sherry Turkle, her talk, with the Louis C.K. bit about, how cell phones were ruining childhood, and the things that are very true, but we were afraid that it was going to be, very negative, and that you were concerned about like portraying, a holistic, view of new technology. And at the end of the show, I remember I had a moment where I was like, this feels very balanced, it like presents, the opportunities and the challenges that are presented by this, that isn't all, technology is ruining our lives, it was really interesting.
I don't think that was sound.
Yeah, we wanted to avoid, doom and gloom, because it's really a wonderful thing that we can do things that 5 years ago we couldn't do. Like studying abroad, I could talk to my mom every day, and that was awesome to, help with homesickness, or, being in a relationship with somebody who's on the other side of the country, you can do that and still, see it. But at the same time, it's just not that same connection because it can distract from the person who's literally in the room. We kept talking about the person who's physically in the room. We have to pay attention to the person who's there physically for us. But we forget we.
Would you mind talking a little bit more about the pre-production process? As a stage manager, being in it, it was extremely different than anything I've experienced, and how the conversations are between
Sure. It started with a conversation when we decided that after we presented DC's ideas about, I was interested in using media as a scene partner, figuring out more ways to integrate the movement and bodies with projected digital media. Kristen was really interested in figuring out a way to make this wearable technology happen, similarly, more organically, to match movements and match what's happening on stage, to be a part of the storytelling, as opposed to being the last element people sort of think about at the end. But starting with those things at the top, I think, helped us draw these themes together of, well, what makes sense to use projection? probably something that actually uses video and interfacing and having screens in your pocket all the time. It's kind of would lend itself well towards this type of a story. And so,
same thing here. I wanted to use these proximity sensors, and I was like, my first thought was like, I just want to do a dance about touch and like intimacy and love, and then we saw each other like, we should get together.
I mean, we chatted about some big chunks of research, like Ammon mentioned. Sherry Turkle is an MIT psychologist who wrote a book called Alone Together: Why we rely more on technology and less on each other. And she writes a lot about roboticist movements, the way we have, social profiles and we alter our avatars and our identity online versus our identity in real life. That was really interesting. We talked about, the Louis C.K.
The movie Her,
rant,
saw that as a research text right out.
Yeah, the screen. Yeah, that was a great screenplay. Just saying we're kind of close to this point where you might actually just fall in love with your computer instead of another human being.
And from there, we really, again, coming from the physical hard elements of like, we know that we're using projections, we know that we're using costume, wearable costume tech, and we both, just as people, since it's our thesis, we're like, well, what do we love? We love dance, and we love text, and we love music. Where can we find these things? Oh, here.
Well, and you find all those things on the internet too. So you can YouTube and go from one video of like this person playing or this person dancing, and we thought, keeping everything in that context of just, swiping through or searching through all of these different types of mediums.
So we approached our team, we got Ammon on board really early, and he wrote us some beautiful music, and we met with Andrea, who could not have done this without you, first of all. Shout out to
Thank you.
She's been a faculty advisor on this project and has been following us case by case and helped us find most of our cast, in fact, and has helped choreograph the piece as well. And through her, we did all of those workshops, and it just started out organically, like you said, with those workshops and getting people to offer up ideas. It's just kind of been a grabbing hands, get everyone we can in the department.
I remember for so long too, it was, so what's it actually gonna be? What is the actual script? So where's the actual script? And we're like, well, we're making it. This is what we're creating this together. It's not like we just took, a Sam Shepard piece or something and said, okay, here's all the directions, it's all there, here's our ingredients, let's go. It was
a push and pull. I keep calling it like the ebb and flow of an ocean, where I'm like, Ammon would make a little piece, and then we'd hear it and be like, okay, this is how we could maybe move to this, and this is where this could happen, and oh, you have this really great motion delante that we want to incorporate. In one of the workshops, I was like, Andrea, this I want to see again.
I think that was one of the reasons we were really blessed with the opportunity to be a part of the New Works Festival, because this is one of those few places that you have the time and the space and the energy to really dedicate yourself to this incubator of having the opportunity. It's really hard to have this kind of an opportunity, I think, outside of campus. And when you are in another city, you need the luxury of resources and time and space and endless energy from so many different people
for you
to make it happen.
What's the experience being a dancer actor?
I think this was a really interesting piece because it was kind of the first time that I tried to do both. In one of the auditions, I did Miranda's little thing while dancing and tried to come up with a movement that went with that. And that was just a really cool thing to tap into, to realize oh, I could kind of do this. I don't know what you call that. And then and then I don't know, during the whole process I was having ideas and putting stuff in, and was really kind of surprised to hear myself talk and find that confidence. So I was like, oh, I'm not good at yeah, it was such a different experience and really funny, because one time I was working on the FaceTime thing with Kristen and Ryan, and I was like, well, what do you, they kept asking me, how do you see this guy? And I'm like, well, what do you guys want? And they're like, well, this is all of us. And I don't know, that was such a big thing, and kind of really interesting that's in this piece, and it was really exciting to be part of something where like words are spoken and there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, like just thinking about us trying to collaborate for you guys as musicians and media designers and how ridiculously complicated that is, and then to see how many things went into this, it's just like so incredible, and it was so well organized by Christian. I was like,
Yeah.
thank you,
Great
Lord,
thinker.
that it's like so nicely put together. So, yeah, there was a lot of great members of the team that made this happen.
I have a question for you guys, actually. What was the, I guess, the biggest takeaway for you, or what was, I guess, a moment that like really struck a chord, or what was your reaction?
The dot section.
Yeah, I was messaged. That was that.
Is
Oh.
the thing that
With Amber on stage.
The two texts.
yeah, the two texts, because I mean that might just be an our generation thing. But that's happened many a time, and you're just kind of like dot. Wait, does he hate me? Does he want to? It's not gone yet. Wait, did he just type one letter, and that one letter is still sitting there? Did he not erase the letter? It was just, oh my gosh, I could relate to that so much. That's why I was hysterically laughing.
Abnormally realistic, you know, like I was like, it was very like funny and like, obviously dramatic, but for me, it was actually like our lives, because that's how it is. Like, us three will be hanging out for like 4 hours in a day, and we're spending 3 hours of it on our phones, not talking, and we're like,
We always mention
put it down.
Just put it down, you guys. And
We're just like in like this hole, and it feels like you can't climb out, and it's sadly true. Like, technology's taking over our lives.
in the worst and best ways.
Yes.
There's a phrase in Sherry Turkle's book, she's, like you said, a psychologist at MIT, that's been following the advancement of the personal computer for like the last 40 years. It's amazing, read her book. And she talks about how technology should be used as a tool, but it's becoming a symptom, where it's no longer like, where you forget that you're upset because you're not connecting to somebody, but you misplace that to something else. You're like, I'm mad that I'm waiting in line, or like, I'm mad that I'm stuck at a red light. Whereas what you're really upset about is like, I haven't talked to another human being in like a day. I was just talking to my boyfriend the other day, and he was saying like, I realize I'm like really down because I go to work, I come home, and then I talk to you on Skype, and then I go to bed and I get up and do it again, like, because he works in a lab by himself, and he's like, I don't interact with other people, and I forgot that that's the problem, because I'm just so used to like, oh, if I want to talk to somebody, I can just do this, but it's not that same connection of like, how are you doing today? Like, let's look in each other's eyes and like touch and be people.
Yeah, I think like in one of the workshops, Andrea and I did this thing where like we were doing like contact improv, and then she's like, what would it be to just like, if you look at your phone during this moment? And she like did it to me, and I was like, it was crazy because, you know, like with the 10 levels, we went from like, you know, like the highest level to like absolutely nothing, and it was just like, wow, like, I mean, because I guess it happens obviously when like, when you're laying in bed and you're talking to somebody and or you're sitting in the same room and not having a real conversation at dinner, you know, but, I don't know what I'm saying about that. Example, yeah.
When you were doing the levels, I was so interested what would happen if you had a Tinder on there.
Oh
You know,
gosh.
like the whole dating aspect.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole can of worms would come up every time we had meetings, and it was like, we could do so many different things about the internet and about our interaction, and like, there's just, we could do so many shows just about just one of those elements.
We actually
So
had
that
a
came
really,
up a lot.
it's gonna be a little R-rated in here, but we had a conversation about like, what can't you do with the internet? And we're like, well, you know, there's one pretty big thing you can't do with the internet. There's a certain level of intimacy. And then we found this scholarship actually that we applied for and didn't get, but it's called the Lilo Undesign Award. And Lilo is a feminist sex toy company in Sweden that put up an award of money for someone who could design a product that reminded people to connect. And we didn't realize what it was when we applied. So we were like, this is exactly what we need, you know. And then we were like, this is not what we thought it was.
But there are those things. There are pillows you can buy that you can like then
You can get
operate
Wi-Fi and a
to
vibrator.
turn on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like these people are trying to find ways for like long distance relationships to work, and it's bizarre. But it's like that's where we are in our society, and you know we even talked about including that somehow in this, and we're like, nah, it's but yeah, it's
Yeah, there's so many different avenues. Yeah. And here's one of them. Any closing? Musically, I mean, I'm just curious too how this has been working with the team with Elia, who's our cellist. How that's been kind of rolling along.
Great.
At least personally, I've never been involved with a show that is just so interactive. I mean, from the audience, every single performer, every single person is important. Not only that, but the technology is a character, the screen is a character, things are also characters. So we were hoping, at least as musicians, to bring that to life, to
You're
make
a
the music,
character.
to make the music a character too. And I mean, I did the little like cell phone interruption on the marimba back there. There's a marimba back there. And it was really interesting the first couple times doing it because they were like, just interrupt her. She'll be fine. Just interrupt. You know, it's kind of hard, but once you learn how to react and just roll with it, it ended up being such a fun process.
I mean, do you find yourself sometimes in the Butler School, like, there's such a specific way we're always used to performing or doing a certain format for a recital or for a concert, and then was this something that was kind of totally different? I know, Ammon, you came from improv background too, so that might have been helpful.
Yeah, I'm pretty used to collaborating in my work in theater. I work with different theaters outside and in Austin. I also work a lot with improvised theater. But it's really rare to find people outside of improv who are able to collaborate. So I was really lucky to find Jenna because she's a very naturally collaborative musician. And we would have, you know, moments back there where we were like, this feels dead, we need transitions, what are we gonna do? You know, and just like hard with it, bam. Elia also is, from her perspective, this was outside of the realm of things that she had done before. And, you know, I'll never forget the first day that we did Lonely, and, you know, and we were like, I was like, Elia, how do you feel about improvising? You know, and she's like, oh. And then she played something and it made people cry. It was beautiful, it was gorgeous, you know, so, yeah, it was, from my perspective, it was a very, very fun, very,
It was so fun too working with like we keep calling it layers, it is layers, but the first time we got together, all of us in the same room, we just listened to you guys play, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. and then they danced, Hallie and Ryan just danced in, you know, their own clothes, and they were like, I want to watch, can I watch, this is great.
I know.
And then I was like, okay, I have to put costumes on them now, and then like everyone was like, what is happening? And it just became layer upon layer of like, it was really cool.
I'm really glad that there's some video here because Andrea's choreography is so beautiful. Like the seconds that I'm able to watch aside from my hands, and it's a really amazing experience to write something and, you know, some music as a composer, and then have people choreograph to it, you know. And yeah, to have people, you know, find them.
If you want to do that again,
We're there.
give you a list.
But it really was a couple prescribed pieces, and then everything else was a lot of, the improv and figuring out what to pull to fill up those spaces.
I think we came up with Cell Phone Symphony as a joke the first time. I remember Ryan and I were in the percussion studio just practicing, Ryan, fellow percussionist, you know, and we were just talking about, you know, technology. Wouldn't it be funny to have a piece based off that marimba ringtone, you know? And so I was like, I think I can learn this. And now we finally brought it all together. It's been amazing just to see every single step of the process.
And I just wanted to add to that, Hallie Ward, choreographer, and all the two dancers that we was at Chocolate a week ago, that choreography was so inspired by your music. It was just brilliant.
As an audience, you delivered your message, but don't think it went unappreciated. All the moving parts that went into this, and you kept us going. There wasn't a moment, and the video had to work, and this had to be on, and the dancing had to be on, and the music. It was just fantastic. You just drew us in, held us the whole time, took us along.
With that, I guess for Ryan and for I, we also have other stuff we can interact with outside of this performance. Every performance time is listed on the Cohen New Works Festival website. An hour and a half before that, you can see the technology that went into the costumes and play with it. It's all interactive. Take some selfies with it, whatever.
And we also have we're also screening throughout the entire day the movie called Connected, similar title to ours but different. It's basically like a movie version of what you've seen tonight.
The documentary.
Documentary Tiffany Schlane created, just about sort of the history of how we have